again, another edition of the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook here on YouTube or any of your podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcast. We are there. I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy, and thank you all for joining me yet again. Another week of football is right around the corner, so let's not waste any time as we go down. And we go down a couple of different avenues. We'll start here with our Player of the Week from last week. A lot of great performances last week. Amongst the sports writers, we had a really good discussion yet again about who we thought was going to be the Player of the Week, and there was no discussion whenever Malachi Hope for Riverside was the one mentioned, and he earned last week's Player of the Week, voted amongst the sports writers. So congratulations to Riverside's Malachi Hope. Looking at his numbers, 12 carries for 271 yards and 4 touchdowns last week against the South Charleston Black Eagles down in Quincy. So congratulations to Malachi and the Riverside Warriors with the victory over South Charleston. So in our next segment, we're going to be discussing some more football with the head football coach of the Hurricane Redskins, head coach Donnie Mays. Hurricanes off to a 3-2 start this season. They started the season 2-1, and then they have split their last 2 games, including a loss to the Whip, Michigan, which was an absolute shootout. 70-63 was the final. So we'll talk with Coach Mays coming up here shortly. We'll go down a couple of different avenues. We'll talk about some of his players, including quarterback Noah Vellaithambi, who's having a superb senior season for Coach Mays. So we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. But we cannot do this show without our 2 sponsors, and Mountain Care Network is one of those, and we appreciate the fine folks over at Mountain Care Network. And Mountain Care Network was designed to increase accessibility to mental health services and decrease the stigma associated with mental health treatment in West Virginia. Check them out by going to their website, mountaincarenetwork.com. That's mountaincarenetwork.com. And the fine folks over at 5th Street Brewing. 5th Street Brewing is one of the area's top establishments for local beer and great food. With over 12 different beers on tap, you're sure to leave satisfied. 5th Street Brewing has a wide range of food options, including my favorite, the Crab Rangoon Sandwich. Be sure to check them out by going to their website, 5thstreetbrewing.com. That's 5thstreetbrewing.com. Or check them out at their location, 180 Summer Street in Charleston. That is 180 Summer Street in the capital city. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be joined by the head football coach of the Hurricane Redskins, head coach Donnie Mays. We'll do that next here on Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook.
From middle school, I remember having a conversation with my sister and telling her that I wanted to be a counselor.
The passion's always there to help someone who's vulnerable and help someone who needs a little guidance along the way.
I try to find things in common with them. A lot of times for me, it can be anything from not dressing up to just, like I said, meeting them where they're at. Literally, that's our motto. We meet you where you are.
My energy is just, I try to make it feel so welcoming.
I think the big thing with me is it's always what's in the best interest of the client.
I try to be very open-minded. This is whatever you need, I'm here to help you with.
Welcome back into this week's edition of the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook. I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy, and we are pleased to be joined by the head football coach of the Hurricane Redskins, head coach Donnie Mays. Coach, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So, Coach, great season thus far for you guys. A couple of losses, I think 3-2 on the year. What's been working well for you guys this season?
Well, we had a great off season, first of all. Numbers in the weight room were as good as we've had in the 3 years I've been here, and the kids we continue to lift throughout the year. So, that's paid off for us big time because we feel like a lot of times we're stronger than the team that we're up against in the fourth quarter.
I mentioned the record 3-2 on the season. There's 2 losses. We'll talk about the Whip, Michigan here in a second. But when you kind of take a loss this early in the season, how do you kind of use that as a building block moving forward, just to kind of go out through the rest of the year?
We look at it as like, you look at who you lose to. We've lost to 2 really good football teams, and we've lost to them by less, 10 points combined. So, when you take a Huntington who's been a Final Four or a champion over the last few years, and you take it to Whip, Michigan that is doing the same thing, but they're in the championship almost every other year. And then we put ourselves right there with them at the end of a ball game and have a chance to win both of them. I think we've made strides into where we want to be. But, I tell the kids all the time, like a win or a loss early in the year will never define who you are. You figure out who you are about midway through the year, and then you keep pushing forward, and we're always trying to improve upon what we've done. So we talk about it all the time about improving upon offensive stats that we've done, since 2022, and we've done that every single year. So defensively, I think we're breaking in a lot of new players. So I think that the big deal with us is just trying to get better this year, and instead of worrying about stat lines and things like that from the previous year, we're just trying to get better at getting like hats to the ball and squeezing and all that stuff, just to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to win football games.
Is it, this may sound a really weird question to ask, but is it better to lose earlier in the season compared to later in the season, or is there a philosophy?
I don't think there's a good time to lose any time, but if you're going to lose, it's probably better off to lose early, But it also depends on who you're playing and when you're playing. It could be, a later game, like, we've got Martinsburg at the end of the year. We had Huntington the last 2 years at the end of the year. They're playing for championships. So is that loss bad? Is it good? How does it help you? I don't know if there's a good answer to that, to be honest with you.
We'll talk about the playoff ratings here in a couple of minutes, but kind of talking about where you think your team grows since week 1 to now. Have you seen any significant growth or just guys stepping up? What have you seen in the first few weeks?
Well, we figured out a lot of who we were on the offensive side of the ball at the end of the Huntington game, and we've just kind of taken off. We've done a really good job. Our guys have really stepped up to the plate. We lost a couple really key players for us that went down to Florida that started for us last year on offense, and we've had kids step in the roles and do as good as we expected, and probably beyond what we expected. So we're really pleased with where we're getting there. Special teams, we're always trying to work on that stuff and get better. But I don't know. It's always coming back to are we getting better every single day? And I think that I think that we are. I think offensively we've taken off, like I've said. First year we were right around the 44 points a game. Last year we were at 50, and this year we're at 51.3 out of 5 games. And if you'd have told me we'd be sitting at 3-2 after the schedule we had at the beginning, I'd be pretty pleased. But better off, no one likes to lose, but to lose as close as we did knows that we've got a fighting chance with anyone.
When you talk about the second half of the season now, what do you want to see from your team from this point moving forward before you play Martinsburg and ultimately before you guys get into the playoffs?
Yeah, we just want to be consistent. We just want to be consistent every single week. You don't want to have those games where it's down or bad, and we thought we played really bad last week against Capital Midland, and we looked at everything. We had close to 622 yards offense, and we still put up 48 points. So yeah, if that's bad for us, I'm pretty pleased. So I really feel like offensively we're clicking. Defensively, that was the best game we've played all year. And, I think our kids flew to the football and did what we asked. Every week, like I said, it's just trying to improve upon those things and get better. And special teams was really good last week, too. So we really had 2/3 of the game that we played well. We thought we didn't play well offensively. We can get all 3 of those clicking. That's what our goal is in the second half of the season, to make sure we can get everything clicking together.
I know whenever you and I talked in the preseason, you mentioned depth and how you wanted to kind of see guys step up to the plate, kind of fill in spots. You mentioned you've lost some guys. Depth-wise, are you impressed with where your team's at in certain positions that you were concerned with in the preseason, or is there still a ways to go?
I think we have a ways to go. It's we're playing like 34 kids right now, and you would, if we can play that many and get through a season, that's good. But it's a grind. So I'd like to see a few more kids step up in the special teams areas and get themselves out there to give some guys some breaks. But at the end of the day, the guys are doing what we're asking them to do, and they're fighting through. I've got Ethan Chill and Drake Lanham they're playing offense, defense, and then they have major roles on special teams, so they're playing a lot of snaps. But they don't beg to come out of the game at all. They're fighting to keep on the field, so that's a good thing.
What's the general theme that you're seeing with this year's team? Obviously, you talk about the guys stepping up, the consistency as well, but is there a general theme that you're getting from this team compared to other teams you've had here at Hurricane?
A lot closer. There's a buy-in. We've had buy-in the last 3 years. That's not the problem, but I'm saying there's more of a buy-in now, and it's like, with a buy-in, it's like it's not always what you can get from it; it's what you can deposit yourself. And our kids are leaving back. They're coming out here every single day and working really hard in practice, and We're not begging kids to bust their butts. They're actually getting out here and busting their butt every single day, and that's something that we're proud of when we leave the field house. You know, where our coaches are pleased with how our efforts are on the practice field.
St. Albans this week. What do you see for the Red Dragons this season?
You know, it's a new staff, breaking in some new kids in different places. You know, they've had their struggles in areas and stuff like that, but nobody likes to play teams that haven't won yet, because those teams are very hungry for a win. But like I said, we got to be real consistent and just go take care of business.
When you talk about the MSAC this season, obviously there's half the team in AAA, half the conference in AAA, half the conference in Quad A. Mm-hmm. Talk about the depth in the conference this year. What do you see from the conference in totality?
It's unique this year. You know, I think Huntington is really good. George Washington's proven that they're pretty good. You know, Spring Valley is a really good football team. It's you know, Parkersburg's young, but they're not bad. You know, and you see a lot of improvement with Capital. You know, not to leave anybody out, but you know, you're seeing like a trend of where it was, where you had like 5 or 6 teams that just battled for that number 1 spot all the time. So, you know, and you got to credit some of these coaches out there for getting their teams better. So, you know, I see this league trending. You know, as long as we can stay together. You know, I think the move and classification and stuff like that's kind of giving some guys some different avenues or different ideas. But if we could stay together, I see no reason why the conference can't be successful like it's been for years.
Let's talk about a couple of your players before we do talk about playoffs. Let's start with the quarterback, Vellaithambi. Obviously, he's been throwing the ball around like the ball's on fire, like a hot potato. What have you liked about his game through these first 4
Consistent.
weeks?
He's very consistent. He leads out there. He knows what we're expecting of him. You know, he and I have a lot of meetings up here just going over the defenses and stuff that he's going to see throughout the week. So he knows right where to go with the football, probably 95% of the time. And the other thing is, too, he's a playmaker, but he's also a coach on the field, so he can check us into good plays because we go so fast sometimes, we're going to have a bad play call. Mm-hmm. So if he can find the right puzzle piece, make it work, and he's done that a couple times. So, you know, that just shows that he's ready for college football as well. But he's doing a great job, and I'd put him up against anybody for, you know, these major awards out here with Kennedy and Metro News and all that stuff, Player of the Years and all that stuff. I don't know what all they have, but he's got to be as good as any right now statistically.
When you talk about what he's meant for this program, he was a quarterback a few seasons ago. He was more of a utility player last year, moved around a lot. Now he's back in the quarterback position. What has he meant to this program?
Oh, he's been a guy that showed, you know, he can do it at any position that you put him at, and he's very unselfish. So he's played offense, he's played defense. You know, he might have the best hands on the team. So he's as good as some of the guys we have catching football. So just a very unselfish player, but very disciplined, weight room oriented. You know, he gets in there and he works. You know, a lot of quarterbacks you fight to get in there. Not him. He's one of the guys that's leading in there. And he takes care of his linemen. Each week they have dinner over at the Vellaithambi household. You know, they call it the No Line, No Shine dinner. And so they go over there and feed those boys, and the boys will do anything for him. So, you know, when you got the guys up front willing to take care of you, you can get a lot accomplished, and that's what he's done.
One of his favorite targets is Tyshawn Dews, WVU commit. When you talk about Tyshawn, from last year to now, what's different about him?
He's been consistent for all 3 years that I've been around him. Can stretch the field vertically, a good route runner. He's becoming a better blocker, though. That's what I'll say, and I talked to him about that. You know, you got to be a better blocker. You guys want to go play higher level football, become a really good blocker, because that's the way you can get on the field a lot sooner than sitting there waiting. So he's become a better blocker, and he's got a supporting cast right now that's really shining a lot. I mean, Jolly Burnett has come out of nowhere, and he's been a great slot receiver for us. And Shalik Hampton, all he does is catch touchdowns. I think he's got 17 catches on the year, 9 of them are for touchdowns, so that's over 50%. So I probably need to throw him the ball more. But he's got other guys around him, too, to take a lot of stress on. They can't double-team him. You know, that's what we've dealt with in the past. You know, they would stick 2 people on him, and then we had to find answers, and now they can't do that.
What do you want to see in the next evolution of his game for the rest of the season, even whenever he leaves here? What do you want to see differently from him?
I mean, I'm pretty pleased with where he is. I think everybody always wants to improve. I'm sure he wants to get better at certain things, but as far as where we are right now for a high school football player, I'm pretty pleased with where he is, and I just want him to be great in college.
Let's kind of open up the depth chart a little bit. Kind of give a shout out. I mean, who's been some guys that have really caught your eye from where you guys were in the preseason to where you guys are now?
Well, Jolly Burnett right off the bat as a receiver, and then Shalik Hampton's had a heck of a year. Those two guys, Kyle and Grace, carrying the ball, but behind him is A.J. Gregory, and they've been a nice 1-2 punch. But, I can sit here and talk about all the different things on offense, but one of the most consistent guys is Rhett McGrew. We don't ask a lot from him in the receiving game, but as a blocker, he's as good as any kid I've ever had. And very physical at the point of attack, but he does a nice job of being consistent and making sure that we're getting our holes, properly developed for the running backs. But, when you flip over to the defense, Joey Keano has been basically a 3-year starter for us. And he's been the leader of the defense, and he's been a guy that's really shined, but he's making guys around him better just because he pursues the ball well. Other guys do the same thing. Probably the biggest surprise that I've had is Sean Legros, who's never played football for me. He lives over here in Hurricane and played basketball and all stuff, so I talked to him about coming out, and so did a couple of my coaches, and here he is. And he's been a pleasant surprise for us. And he got his first D2 scholarship offer the other day, so, shout out to him. I told him if he had played for 4 years, he might be, beating on some doors. He's 6'4", long, athletic, can run, so we're happy with him.
And finally, let's kind of talk about the playoff ratings. I mean, you guys are in a very similar situation that GW is in right now. 4 of your teams moved down to AAA. For you all, what does that kind of do for you guys moving forward with scheduling?
It's something that was kind of thrown at us. We didn't realize it was going to happen. Here we are. We had all these 4A schools, and being on the rules committee myself, we created a strength of schedule component. Well, here we go. We get the strength of schedule component done, and we put DeWitt on the schedule, and then all of a sudden, these 4 teams on our schedule, and I know 5 on Billy's, and George Washington's been hit by it, but all these schools start getting hammered by these points everywhere. So it's going to affect us. We don't know where, but we'll find out when we get there.
Well, Coach, good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing what you guys do moving forward. And up next, we'll go through my picks and other things here on the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook.
From middle school, I remember having a conversation with my sister and telling her that I wanted to be a counselor.
The passion's always there to help someone who's vulnerable and help someone who needs a little guidance along the way.
I try to find things in common with them. A lot of times for me, it can be anything from not dressing up to just, like I said, meeting them where they're at. Literally, that's our motto. We meet you where you are.
My energy is just, I try to make it feel so welcoming.
I think the big thing with me is it's always what's in the best interest of the client.
I try to be very open-minded. This is whatever you need, I'm here to help you with.
Final segment here on the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook. Special thank you to the head coach of the Hurricane Redskins, head coach Donnie Mays, for his time talking about his team. As you could tell in the end, we kind of got hit with the rain. We thought we were going to sneak it in, but the rain crept up on us and it got us. But as always, it's always good to talk with Coach Mays about his team and what they got going on down in Putnam County. But again, as I mentioned in the first segment, high school football and college football is right around the corner. So last week, a little bit of a shaky week for me in my picks. I went 5-5 last week. I went 3-2 in high school football, and then went 2-3 in college football for a grand total of 5-5. So a little bit of a shaky week, but hopefully this week we can flip the script, turn the chapter, turn the page, whatever you want to say. And here are my picks for this week in high school and college football. I'm taking GW over Capital, Herbert Hoover over Chapmanville, Mingo Central over Scott, Polka over Roane County, Princeton over Winfield, Oklahoma State over West Virginia, Ohio State over Iowa, Clemson over Florida State, Appalachian State over Marshall, and Missouri over Texas A&M. Before we go as well, here are last week's stats leaders here under the HD Media umbrella.
We the best, no contest. My clique is the best. We the best. There ain't no one like cause of you dumb or you crazy. There's no way, G. Me and my clique, we handling biz while you and your clique just act fugazi. You couldn't persuade me to give a damn, this don't faze me. I got my Xbox, she can't play me. Money in a text box, I get paid. We the best. We the best. No contest. My clique is the best. We the best. We the best. No contest. My clique is the best. We the best. We the best. There ain't no rest. For the wicked I'm bad and I'm blessed. Put it to the test. For the rest there ain't no contest. So what's next? Got me leveling up, I'm obsessed. I bring the fire like I'm possessed. My personnel and my clique is the best. There ain't no contest. There ain't no one like cause of you dumb or you crazy. There's no way, G. Me and my clique, we handling biz while you and your clique just act fugazi. You couldn't persuade me.
Thanks again to everybody for watching this, whether you get this on YouTube or any of your audio playlists. Check us out, subscribe to us, follow us, whatever you need to do to be sure to keep up with everything going on across the Kanawha Valley. Again, we are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And again, we could not be able to do this podcast and the show without our two sponsors, Mountain Care Network and 5th Street Brewing. And Mountain Care Network, you can check them out by going to their website, mountaincarenetwork.com. And be sure to go check out 5th Street Brewing over on 180 Summer Street in Charleston. And check them out on their website, 5thstreetbrewing.com. That's 5thstreetbrewing.com. Again, I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next week. This is the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook.